Hi SALT users, in this video I'm going to show you how to analyze two samples that are linked together using the database menu. So the first thing we want to do is link our samples. You can link using this icon or the word link up there. And what this situation is it was a 10-week response to intervention program, and Sam, the student who's in 6th grade, completed Dr. DeSoto before intervention and then after. So I'm going to keep these labels as time 1 and time 2. And the comparison based on down here is how you're equating the samples to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and link those samples, and then we can go ahead and run our analysis. So I'm going to go to the database and select database samples and settings. So the only thing that's just a little bit tricky is you have to do this twice because you're comparing the first sample to the database and then you're comparing the second sample to the database. So there's just a little bit of footwork here. As you can see, we can pretty much take the defaults because it selected the narrative story retell and then the Dr. DeSoto. So I'm going to go ahead and take the defaults, and there are 34 samples, so that looks good. And I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to do the same thing for the second sample. Match samples and equated samples, and there's 27. So those look good, and I'm going to keep my standard deviation at 1. Okay, so now that our two samples are linked and they're equated, we're going to go ahead and run the report. So I'm going to base my report on the entire transcript for a standard measures report because it's a narrative retell. And as you can see in a couple seconds, we have our report. So what's different about this is you might notice you're missing that whole column with all the database stats, but you do have time 1, time 2, and then plus or minus standard deviation. So we can see left-hand side is time 1. So for Sam in his narrative retell, he had some pretty good gains with his mean length of utterance. That increased from time 1 to time 2. His MLU and morphemes also went up, and his SI, subordination index, so his clausal density increased. And if we go down to the bottom, we can see that his mazes actually increased as well. So it went from 18% to 22%, and he also had more error codes in his second sample. So he had more utterances with longer MLU, higher SI composite, but maybe just had a little hard time formulating and so forth, so had more mazes. I'm going to go up and select from the database, the maze. I want to look at the mazes, so I'm going to go to verbal facility summary. Take the defaults there. And again, this is just a lot of information on mazes, but again, time 1, time 2. So we can see total maze words increased from 117 to 150. It looks like he's, if we scroll down here, having the structure of the mazes kind of it was similar. So he's having more revisions than any other type of phrase revisions as opposed to word or part word revisions. He also has increased single word filled pauses. So the patterns are similar, but just more of them. So that's kind of interesting. Next thing I want to pull out of the database menu is the quick look. And I'll take the default there. And what this is, again, time 1, time 2, this would be really convenient if you had a report, maybe for a team meeting or something that you need to present. There aren't specific statistics in here, but it just tells you about time 1, time 2, the language area, and then in terms of strength within normal limits or a relative weakness. So we can see on time 1, he had a relative weakness in his narrative scoring scheme, his mean length of utterance, and his subordination index, and also mazes. However, on time 2, he only has 2 areas of relative weakness compared to the SALT reference database in MLU, which increased but was still a little bit lower, and the maze words. So that can just be a kind of a nice report. Keep in mind that you can run anything from the Analyze menu with side-by-side information as well. So I'm going to go ahead and unlink those. You can go link and then unlink, and your samples are no longer connected. So if you wanted to run individual reports, you certainly could to get more information. Thanks for watching.